So, I can't remember the last time I felt happy. And by that I mean like truly happy. And I have the impression that I'm not alone in that. I've been watching people and reading the comments online and have reached to the conclusion that everyone seems to be tired from managing the complexities of life. But at the same time, despite of being tired, they also seem to be very restless to improve their situation so that they're not feeling exhausted all the time. And I mean, that's the most natural thing, right? But I've been thinking like, why? Why are we so exhausted by simply being alive? And if you're like me, you try to diagnose your situation, you try to do something about it. Maybe you try a new hobby, or maybe you try to learn a new skill, but then you realize, yeah, maybe it works for one day or two, but then you feel the emptiness again. You're back to square one. It's always the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and you realize that it doesn't solve the question at all. What do you do when nothing works? Maybe you start to blame your boss, you start to blame your family, you start to blame the immigrants, your government, and maybe you can also blame, the elite, the Freemasons and the Illuminati, if that's your thing. And I'm not saying these things aren't real and these people don't have any impact on you. But my take is that, okay, just imagine all these people. By the time you wake up tomorrow, they all disappear. How would you feel? Would you feel happier because all your enemies are gone and then you don't have to deal with them? I think you'd be standing at the same spot, probably. Because then you would lose all your excuse, right? Then you would really have to ask yourself the real question, which is, now what? And I think that's the real question we try to avoid at all costs. Because all these excuses, they become the narratives through which we understand what's happening within us. Because you can say, my life sucks because I hate my job. And I feel miserable because my family left me traumatized when I was 10. I'm unemployed because of the immigrants and our government, they allowed it. And of course, you can also say like, oh, there's the secret society guys. They're like trying to conspire against us all. So that's why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling right now. So when you do that long enough, you're basically managing an identity, right? Your identity that is based on how you were affected by the external world. And then what happens then is that you lose your agency. So what happens when you remove that narrative and you really start to ask yourself, what's left of me? And you probably don't have the slightest. So let's imagine you were a kid. You were not probably conditioned by society and all the responsibilities. You were pretty clueless, but also unchained, right? And as you grew, you started getting all the other stuff. I think it's fair to say that this transition happened somewhere between childhood and adulthood. When you learn how to read a room and all the stuff, you lose your innocence, basically, right? Because like a kid, you're spontaneous, you're natural. You could just play and have fun. And you would see some sand and you would just naturally want to build a castle. You would stare at the clouds like you're watching a movie, totally lost in your imagination. They're not really worried about anything. They don't have any responsibilities, and they often speak their minds without really thinking. So what exactly happened to that kid? So what exactly happened to that kid? You were that kid once. And I think we buried it. We buried it under responsibilities, under expectations, under this pressure to achieve, to get the approval, to be respectable, successful. Over time, build a fortress around us. A fortress that is made out of status, career, approval, reputation, and we call that growing up. But the thing about fortresses that's really funny is that they protect you, but at the same time, they make you a prisoner, right? And the truth is, you suffer inside that fortress. You suffer because you're attached to things that can be taken away, like a job title, or an image, or a story that you've told about yourself. So when you take away those things, who are you? And I think most people can't even really answer that question, and that terrifies them. And that's why people cling so desperately to their stories, their politics, their identities, their grievances, because without them, the world becomes a confusing place. So that's why we fight. We defend those ideals. We protect the fortress, forgetting that we are the ones being locked inside. But then here's what I started to believe. Like, you don't really need to teach children how to be happy. They naturally do it. You just need to watch them have fun with themselves. It's instinctive, but then they start to learn how to suppress it. You learn how to do it because you had to. You were told to sit still. You were told to behave. You were told to listen. You start to tolerate things that felt wrong. You suppress feelings that were inconvenient. They tell you that if you did what they told you, you'd be loved, you'd be rewarded, you'd be listened, and they'll give you attention. That's how you get lost in the first place. So here's the work. Here's the real work. Not chasing happiness, like it's something you can buy or earn or achieve, but excavating it, digging through all that conditioning, all that performance, let's say, and start peeling all those layers of should and must and what will people think. So it's all about finding that kid again. Ask yourself this question: what would you do if nobody was watching? And just ask, what would I actually genuinely want to do? Because here's the thing I've come to understand. The people who figure this out, like, the wise ones across every tradition, they all say the same thing in different words. The happiness you're looking for is not out there. It was never out there. It's underneath all the stuff you piled on top of it. The status, the performance, the blame, the exhaustion, all of it. And that's harder because that requires letting go. You let go the armor that you've been wearing for so long, and it seems impossible because you've been wearing it so long. It feels like it's part of your flesh. So removing it will hurt, and it won't be easy at all. So how you do that? I don't have the slightest. I don't have the answer for you, because me, myself, I'm trying to find the answer for it. See you next time.